Thank you all for joining us today for Let's Talk Indian River County Candidates. We're broadcasting live from the new executive studio space at Beyond the Trend Marketing here in Vero Beach, provided by Morgan Reynolds and her team. So we're most appreciative of her time and letting us be able to use this space.
Here.
My name is Belle O'Hare, and I will be moderating the conversation this afternoon. And I am very happy to introduce to you to our candidates. I'd like for you to meet Bob McPartland.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Mr. Lohr, Mr. Robinson, Miss Pippin, Mr. Jaffe, and Miss Paradiso. So this row right here is District 2. The row in the middle is District 4, and the next row is District 2 again. So thank you so much for joining us. I had said to them a little while ago, they are braver than most of us in sticking your necks out and run for public office. So we really appreciate the time. And I know you've done lots of nice things for the community already. And we thank you for joining us this afternoon. So our mission with Let's Talk Vero is to educate, enlighten, and engage our neighbors around the issues that shape our future, growth, development, infrastructure, and public services. Not everyone subscribes to the newspaper, and social media rarely gives you the whole story. Our readers have asked us to provide the space where people can hear directly from the candidates. So here we are. I've lived in Vero Beach for 42 years, and as a result of now volunteering my time towards community engagement efforts, I've realized how important electing the right county commissioner is and their importance for all the people in our county. Vero Beach, Fellsmere, Sebastian, Orchid, and Indian River Shores. Tonight, we're focused on two seats that are up for grabs, District 2 and District 4, ahead of the primary on August 18th, just about 2 weeks away. This primary narrows the field before voters make the final call in November. And let's start setting the table with our current commission chair. And before Mr. Lohr, I'll hand it over to you. I want to mention to everybody, I'm not a professional moderator. I have never met the candidates until tonight, except Mr. Lohr, because he did participate in a previous Let's Talk Vero conversation with us a few months ago. Questions that we're asking this evening have been sourced from the most recurring questions and feedback from our readers prior to this call. And please, throughout this discussion, this is not to the audience that's listening in, please feel free to put your questions in the chat when we open up for Q&A. And our goal is to open up for Q&A right around 7 o'clock. All right, so we're ready? Okay. All right, Mr. Lohr. So nice for you to set the table, big picture. Since you currently serve as chairman of the board of the county commission, could you give us a 30,000-foot view of what the commission actually does? And most importantly, what are the agreed upon top 2 agenda items that the board wants to implement?
Sure. Well, thank you. And it's certainly a pleasure and an honor to be here, not only with you and Let's Talk Vero and your staff here, but as important, the candidates that are to my side and behind me. As you mentioned, with a county of about 173,000 residents, some 110,000 voters, for these 6 to put themselves on the line, so to speak. We are in some very high air, so to speak. And I do thank you for that. And I want to thank the other candidates for doing this. Not everybody wakes up and says, I think I'll run for county commissioner.
That's for sure.
It does. And it does take a lot of time. It's very taxing on not only families, but your time. And I can tell you the District 2 candidates have been everywhere in the last, I'd say, 3 months. And yes, so they're getting to know each other really well.
Okay.
But to answer your question, and it's an honor for me not only to be the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, but also the incumbent of District 4, which primarily is the southeast section of our county. But as important, each county commissioner also handles inquiries and other things throughout our county. the role of the Board of County Commissioners, if you can think of a legislative body, which in fact we are a legislative body. In fact, we're defined as a legislative body. So if you can imagine the 67 counties in the state of Florida, and let me retract and say, if you can imagine Washington, D.C. with the House and the Senate and the President and the Cabinet, and then the state of Florida with the House and the Senate and the governor and his cabinet, essentially each county has a board of county commissioners, and those 5 county commissioners, and it varies from county to county on the amount of county commissioners. In fact, Duval County and Jacksonville has about 19 county commissioners, if you can imagine that. But as for us in Indian River County, we have 5. We operate and act as a legislative body. What does that mean? That means we actually, in fact, yesterday we legislated 4 items. And those items come before the board, whether quasi judicial or just legislative in nature, and we legislate on a local level, and we vote on a local level between the 5 county commissioners on primarily policies, ordinance, and codes that affect everyone in the county, to include the residents and our tourists, of course. And as important, our primary task is the budget. We vet the budget, talk about the budget, analyze the budget, and approve the budget. We also approve the taxing rate, i.e. the millage rate. So basically our 2 primary concerns are policy setters and budget makers and or approvals. We do that side by side with our county administrator and our county attorney, who are the only 2 employees that report directly to the board. Our job as the 5 is to make sure that those 2 particular, the county administrator and the county attorney, are doing their jobs that we feel are fit for everybody in Indian River County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. McPartland, we are, for the viewers, we have 1 microphone and we're going to loop it very elegantly amongst 6 adults. So, Mr. McPartland, thank you for joining us today. In your TC Palm questionnaire, you mentioned that one of your top 3 priorities during your first year in office will be to support targeted and effective investments in infrastructure and restoration efforts that reduce pollution and improve water quality in the Indian River Lagoon. What specifically do you have in mind, and where would the money come from?
Great question. You know,
We all love the lagoon, right?
the Indian River Lagoon is very important, not only to this county, but to all the county that runs along it. And I think it was back in 2014 when they started the Indian River Lagoon Council, which was the 5 counties along the Indian River Lagoon, so they could get together and work. In the beginning, when it was first formed, Indian River County did not want to have a seat on that. Okay, I was mayor of the city of Sebastian at the time, and when we learned that, I said, we'll take that seat, spend the $50,000, because I knew the importance of it. But my other board members, of course, agreed, and they said, let's ask the other municipalities. And for 3 years, city of Sebastian, the city of Fellsmere, and the city of Vero Beach split that $50,000 to have that seat on the board. Looking back, I think if we did not make that decision at that time, the Indian River Lagoon Council probably would not be in existence, because Indian River is the central one of the 5 counties that are involved in that. And again, they meet in the city of Sebastian chambers. So I think that is first and foremost everything that happens there. I think on a county level, I think one of the most important things that we could do is try and push the state, because the state has a lot of outfalls that go directly into the Indian River Lagoon, and get them somehow to do, like in the city of Sebastian, every project that's done down there, we have baffle boxes, which try and filter as much of the nutrients and contaminants as they can that go into the river. So I think that's one right off the bat that can be done.
Thank you so much. Ms. Pippin, I'll wait for you to get the microphone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Yours is a unique situation in that you have come under fire in the media. I'm sure you would love to set the record straight. To recap, Larry Reisman of TC Palm questioned your financial disclosure because you answered not applicable on a form asking whether or not you had declared bankruptcy in the past, and whether an active nursing license on file under your name is in the state registry. Would you like to take this opportunity this afternoon to respond?
Sure, and thank you so much for having me, and to all the other candidates,
Sure.
thank you for
It's our
being here. This
pleasure.
is so very
Thank you.
important. So, if anybody knows anything about me, the past 6 years, the media has not been very favorable to me. And that's okay because they have an agenda, they have things that they want to do within the media. And again, even if you have the facts and the stats and the truth and give it to them, they don't print it for Jennifer Pippin. So when TC Palm sent out their candidate interviews, those are optional interviews. Those are optional questions. So I opted not to answer the bankruptcy question at that time. But since you asked me point blank and you are a voter and we're in a room of voters, yes, I did file for bankruptcy when I was 22 years old. At the time, I was taking care of my father-in-law who had neck and back surgery. He unfortunately passed away. So I had to choose between paying for his funeral or paying my household bills and daycare for two children at $600 each a month. And I will always choose my family over anything. So if I was to do it again at 22 years old, I wish I would have had more money in savings. But at that time, with two small children, I couldn't do that. So I wouldn't take it back. And again, NA for a TC Palm is not required. I filed my Form 6 disclosure and it does not say anything about bankruptcy. So just for full disclosure, that's why I did file for bankruptcy, and it is not required to, have any media questions. Those are not mandatory to answer for that. And then the second question was for the mortgage statement, correct?
No, the other question that Mr. Reisman had was whether an active nursing license is on file under your name and state registries.
Sure. So in 2021, there was a fraud case filed under my nursing license, and my identity was stolen. It was done through my driver's license and my medical licenses. So I had to hire an attorney. I found out through getting unemployment benefits were getting taken out in my name as well as other nurses and doctors, and they were using them. I believe it was a $1 million suit that was done at the federal level. And those two people that were filing those charges are in prison for what they did to us and us as medical professionals. So again, if you'd like all that information, it is on the Sunshine Journal. Thomas Augustus just pushed out all of that factual information. And just for the record, I did send that information to Larry Reisman as well when he published it in the TC Palm. He did not put all the facts, the stats, and the truth in there. And again, so as far as my bankruptcy, yes, it happened. It was a very unfortunate thing. I would never want anybody to have to choose between burying their father-in-law and paying their medical bills. At 22 years old with a 1-year-old and a baby, and then again, everybody has been so worried about where I work and how long I've been working there since I've been, advocating for education and everything in this county. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate this answer. Mr. Robinson, you mentioned that one of your top priorities was economic development, especially to create a focused campaign to market our community to high quality businesses that we want to attract here to Indian River County. Can you give some examples of the type of high quality businesses that ideally you would like to solicit and why?
Well, once again, thank you for having us. Let me apologize a little bit. I have a little bit of a sinus drain. It's making me sound like a horse. So bear with me, audience.
Actually, it sounds very nice.
Okay.
I was told I didn't have my microphone high enough, so it's all good.
It's all good. Yeah. So in terms of economic development, growing up here, there was sort of an expression in high school that you lived in Zero Beach, and that meant there was no fun and also no job. So
Right,
you had to
right.
go to college, you had to go to trade school, you had to go somewhere else and get a
Yeah.
job. And if you were lucky enough, you could come back to Vero
Right.
either when you were established as a professional or something like that. So I want to make sure that we put a focus on it. I know the county has already started doing that. I think there's more steps we can take. Have full-time resources that are going out and marketing the county as a whole, saying if your business is expanding, opening up new divisions, if you're a new business needing a place to start, we're a business-friendly, low-tax, low-reg place to do that. So that's kind of like the first broad strokes. In terms of targeting specific industries, I think we look at what's around us and what we have to offer. So north of us, we have the Space Coast. We've got aerospace, defense contractors, the cyber and IT that goes around that. The airports in that area are fully built out. There's no developable space. Our airport has developable commercial space.
Right.
So if you're a drone manufacturer for one of the Pentagon defense contractors, if you're a parts manufacturer for any of those aerospace companies, this could be an area for you to put your business, to hire local people, to train them up. And those are good jobs, good wages. I would also say, let's look to the South. Wall Street South, financial services, health and life sciences, all sorts of stuff is happening down there. I'm not trying to attract the biggest players and build skyscrapers all up and down the coastline, nothing like that. But there's lots of service providers and subsidiaries and ancillary services that support those, where the business owner might choose to live close to customers, but not in the sprawl of South Florida. They might want a higher quality place for their employees' kids to go to schools, and have more of a family-friendly, low-density, high quality of life. I think we can market that to those businesses. I think a lot of people would choose that. Remote work has changed the calculus for businesses making decisions about where they are. Expansion at our airport, expansion at Melbourne Airport, makes it a lot easier to travel, to see customers, and to get to business hubs. So I think we have a lot going for us in terms of economic development, and there's a lot we can attract.
I'm sure you all agree as well. And just as an aside, we're a service community, and I think collectively, if we can find a means to attract jobs that pay at a minimum $25 an hour plus, I think would go a long way just to help the general demographics here of the county. So thank you. Miss Pardizio, here we go. Microphone coming your way. You're a third generation Vero Beachite.
Yeah.
And I read you went to Sebastian High School and Indian River State College. So full immersion of education in Zero Beach. That's what my kids call it. Oh, Mom, Zero Beach. It's all good. They were okay. They came back. It's okay. So running as a write-in means your name won't appear printed on the ballot. So what made you choose that path instead of running in a party primary? And what is your primary motivation for running?
Thank you for the question, Bearbell. I decided very much in mid-May of this year that I wanted to be a part of change. I wanted to be a part of doing something for the community that essentially raised me. And I unfortunately missed the time frame in which it requires my fellow candidates here to get petitions. So I went with the choice that I had available, and write-in was that choice. I am really excited to be learning so much in this process, knowing that the open seat for District 2 was going to be filled really helped me to make that concrete decision, because I knew I could either try it now or I could wait 4 years and try again. But instead of doing it and waiting, I wanted to learn from this current process. So primarily it's me wanting to learn. I'm diving in with both feet, hands, maybe even a cannonball at this point.
Okay. All right. And since you're not on the ballot, I'll spell your last name for our viewers. Paradiso. All right. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jaffe, last but certainly not least, Mr. Jaffe brought his son, and he is 13 years old, and he is in a suit and tie. And I'm sorry we can't show him to you, but it's great. So, Mr. Jaffe, you're challenging the gentleman that sits right in front of you. He's an incumbent with deep roots of law enforcement and county governance. What gap in the current commission's long-term plan for District 4 made you decide to run?
There was no specific gap. Darrell Lord has served this community for many, many years faithfully and committed, and I am grateful for the work that he has done as both a commissioner and as the county sheriff. There is not a gap that prompted me to run. My vision of Indian River County to be as great a place to raise my grandchildren as it was for me to grow up, and as it has been for me to raise my children, is the driving force behind my decision to run for county commission. I believe in accountability. I believe in transparency, and that's what I'm going to bring this community.
Thank you so much. So now what we'd like to do is ask, I'm going to read one question, and it's the same question for all of you, and we'll continue to go in the same order. If that's okay with you, we're kind of going alphabetical. So it's Mr. McPart. I'm sorry, I have a mental Bob. And then from Bob, we're going to go to Miss Pippin, and then to Mr. Robinson. That's alphabetical order. And Miss Paradisio last because you're the write-in. And then these two gentlemen here, we will do Daryl and Mark. Although Mr. Jaffe said everyone calls him Jaffe, so that works. All right. So the same question for all of you about smart growth. So at a recent candidate forum, each of you was asked to define smart growth, and none of you quite landed on the official definition. So here it is. Smart growth means building and expanding communities so homes, jobs, and shops are close together, rather than spreading out endlessly and forcing people to drive everywhere. It creates walkable neighborhoods, protects natural spaces, and offers real choices for transit, biking, and walking. For some context, the Florida Office of Economic and Demographic Research projects Indian River County's population growing from about 173,000 in 2025 to roughly 203,000 by 2045. So that's nearly an 18% increase over the next 2 decades. 20 years is a long time. But broken down annually, that works out to less than 1% growth per year. So it's a steady pace, but not a runaway pace. With that growth and that definition in mind, how does smart growth fit into your platform for the county?
Smart growth is, you have to plan. I mean, that's the number one thing, planning for everything. I've served on the Metropolitan Planning Organization for the past 15 years. And as you can see, the plan was along 510 all the way down to US 1, it's being widened, as well as 66th Avenue has been widened. It takes years because you can't just build a road overnight. But planning is a huge part of that. Also, the city of Sebastian has annexed a lot of land into the city. And the reason we've done that is so the city can have control over what gets built there. And that's what's happening with some of the annexed land talked about, a walkable community, like you said, so everybody can stay in there. And the big focus is on having a town center with actual real commercial stuff. No offense, but no dollar stores, auto parts, and everything else that everybody's used to be seeing.
They'll
But-
be first in your inbox tonight.
Right, of course they will, as they typically are. But to have that and to have the walkability, because again, you have to have the road, the infrastructure there to be able to handle everything. So the planning is being already done around those roads. And then any development that happens in there, of course, there would have to be access to the city, county, sewer, and water, because none of them are going to be built on a septic system. They have to be built on sewer and water. So they would have to have access to that. So that's kind of the thing with smart growth. Some of it, if you look down in the South County, when I drive up, 43rd or 26th Avenue, and from St. Lucie, and you have to plan along with St. Lucie, because the road in St. Lucie is horrible. I don't even think 2 cars can safely go down that road. But once you hit the Indian River line, it's paved brand new for those developments that are in there. And a lot of those developments are going to head south to catch on to 95 from there. So planning is the number one thing you have to do, as well as work with your other neighbors. Like the county has to plan with the municipalities that are in here. Also, the county needs to plan with who's around them. Brevard County, also with St. Lucie County, and running all the way out to Okeechobee, Osceola County out west, because there's going to be a lot of development which occurs out there, especially as the new Oslo Road interchange will be open and running soon.
Thank you so much. Ms. Pippin, what's your vision for smart growth in Indian River County?
Thank you for the question. So, smart growth for me, it's kind of word salad. You could say, fast growth, not fast growth. There's so many different words that you can use for it. So for me is, so like after COVID, we saw a lot of people move here after COVID. We've seen a lot of people move here. Usually they come in vacation here and they stay here, right? Or we see our older population, instead of having 2 and 3 homes, they're staying here to retire in Florida. We're seeing a lot of that. So for me, smart growth is doing everything to make sure that we have safety in place. We have enough hospitals, we have enough schools, we have, for the population that is moving in, making sure that they occupy these homes that are vacant right now. We have so many vacant homes, we have so many vacant office buildings. Let's try to get those filled up. And, as we're, building new ones, but not having, super big growth, we're filling those. When I go and knock doors in Vero Lake Estates, a lot of those roads are unpaved. They want them paved. And, when they moved there, some of them said that they were expecting it to be paved in time, or they're not doing the grading as much as they should be. So even as we're growing, we need to be taking care of our communities of people who live here now. I was knocking doors in on Saturday in South Vero, and I can't tell you how many times in the rain I had to drive around a pothole and almost in somebody's yard because of some of the roads down there. So again, for me, smart growth is we have to take care of the people that live here and take care of their issues. Starting in October, we're going to have Fellsmere as part of our district for as far as the water and the draining. They have horrible flooding out there. Again, knocking doors and talking to people. They have horrible flooding out there where they had to shut down in front of Marsh Landing for weeks the last time that we had a flood, and people literally had to drive out of their way to get to their homes. So again, we keep saying smart growth, and we know all these people are moving here. We have to make sure that we're taking care of the people that do live here and taking care of these issues before we go building 200, 300 home developments and have all these empty office buildings and all these empty homes, and make sure our veterans, our elderly, and our families are taken care of when they're just driving to and from work or wanting to live in their communities. So that's smart growth for me. Thank you for the definition, but that's what I hear when from the community when I hear smart growth.
Thank you so much. Mr. Robinson, what do you think about smart growth?
Sure. I like your definition because it gives us the same thing to talk about.
It's all how you envision implementing it, right?
Sure. And I'll start with mindset because I think that's an important differentiator, right? So as a county commissioner, you have to make a lot of judgment calls. Should we make a change? Should we approve a project? Has someone met a specific definition for us to provide a service or change something that they're asking for, right? So my mindset would be, as it comes to growth and development, is if you want something to be built or you want something to change, show me the value you're bringing to the community. Show me how you're improving the area that you're building something in. Show me what infrastructure you're going to need or you're going to build, or how you're going to access existing infrastructure. Are you connecting with other communities? Are you close to retail space? Is your plan going to include retail space, grocery stores, pharmacies, urgent care centers, places like that people need on a regular, daily, weekly basis? So that's, if I zoom out, the sort of the big picture is how I as a commissioner will make those decisions. What is a developer, a project, a change going to bring to that community, to our community? Also, looking at the character of each individual community. So unique to Indian River County, we're all elected at large. So even though we have to live inside the district that we're running for, I view my job to represent the whole county and to really try and learn and know as much about the various parts of the county. So, you have some areas that have old, wide, leafy lots and strolling streets, and to drop 200 apartment homes in there would demonstrably change the character of that community. You have areas that have homes and apartments and commercial places, and taking a lot that's next to an apartment building to add an apartment building doesn't substantially change the character of the community. It might even be currently zoned for that, right? So it's about looking at, are you asking for changes? In my mind, we need to understand more about what you're going to do, how it's going to benefit us. If you're trying to do something that fits within the community that exists there already, it's not going to add traffic, you're not taking residential to commercial or something like that, then we should encourage that. Smart growth, I think, also means that we have to get all the infrastructure and all the peripheral correct as well. So one of the things I think that is starting to come out as a real campaign issue is public safety. So we've experienced population growth. We will continue to experience population growth, and we do not currently have the public safety resources that we need to take care of the people that are in our county today. We have a fire department that regularly has all trucks out on a call and is not able to respond if you call in at that exact moment to your emergency. We need to make sure that the men and women that are keeping us safe have the resources to enable this growth.
Thank you so much. Here comes the microphone. Ms. Paradiso, what do you think about smart growth, and what would you like to do about it should you be elected?
Great question too. So smart growth for me and what I'm focused on is really within District 2, the learnings that I am taking in right now from the comprehensive plans for 2030, as well as the one that's in the works for 2045. Smart growth is understanding the needs and the opportunities, because there are significant opportunities for us. But understanding how to balance that with the needs for District 2 specifically. I see a lot of things happening, a lot of growth and an influx of residents in my area as well as around the county. And I think that from an infrastructure perspective, we have to protect and maintain the resources that we have today. And so if we're unable to support the infrastructure changes that may need to have to occur in order for us to absorb that growth, I want to make sure that it's a conversation that I'm having with leaders in the community, as well as our residents, our businesses, because we all feel that sense of expansion when it occurs, whether it's in one specific district or not. We certainly do feel it. So aside from that, I genuinely believe that growth you speak to is possible, and it doesn't necessarily have to be painful. If we're making smart choices and we're understanding the plans and the needs of our community. So right now for me, I'm still in that learning phase of understanding the needs of our community and figuring out how I can be a part of making that happen.
Thank you so much. Mr. Lohr, I'm sure you've been asked this question before, considering you're serving on the commission right now. So how do you think we could handle smart growth?
Well, I thank you, and I appreciate the other candidates' answers. The fact is, smart growth starts with leadership, and the leadership that currently exists on the Board of County Commission and members of our executive staff is outstanding. 4 of our county commissioners have held office not only in other areas, but the city of Fellsmere, the city of Vero Beach, and one being a long-term county commissioner, and myself holding office prior to holding this office, and a long-term 35-year first responder. So when we start talking about smart growth, we're 101 years old. Vero Beach and Indian River County did not get this way overnight. I think Bob mentioned earlier about planning, and Bob is involved in a lot of planning mechanisms that we are. On the surface, oftentimes commissioners are critiqued about what the heck's going on, all these hums. Fact is, our population has increased just barely 1% recently. Most of the developments that folks are talking about, in fact, Bob was talking about one on 27th Avenue or 43rd Avenue, have been in the planning stages since the 2019, 2018, all of those things. COVID and some other things may have slowed that down. But the key thing to remember is the leadership team of the county, we plan. We don't hope to win. We plan to win. A coach doesn't hope to win a ball game. He or she plans to win a ball game, right? The things that we have in place, not only our long range plans from our something as what sounds exciting as our Parks and Recreation long-term plan, to our capital improvement plan, to our long-range road building plan, to our infrastructure of our water, our wastewater, our fiber, and our sewer. I think someone mentioned earlier our septic to sewer. You have to have confidence in the leadership team that you have that exists. It's not like we're not familiar with those terms, right? Do we talk about them all the time from the dais? Unfortunately, we do not. But I will tell you that our current philosophy is any growth whatsoever is paid for by someone other than taxpayers. In other words, if a developer comes to town, he or she's company will in fact pay for that stormwater, wastewater, or any other type of utilities. The key thing to remember, however, is if a piece of property is zone specific and it's in accordance with our land development regulations, I believe in capitalism. That body or that large body, in fact, can build something there. If it's a neighborhood, if it's a shopping center, that's how the zoning works. We police that, of course, but at the end of the day, trust in the leadership that you have in Indian River County.
Thank you so much. Mr. Jaffe, I saw you nodding along. And so I'd love to hear how you expand maybe on some of the views you've heard and your personal views, obviously, on smart growth.
Thank you very much. That definition that you gave of smart growth, that is the actual definition. That's not your interpretation. That's the literal definition of smart growth.
Right.
Just wanted to be crystal clear that that is
smart enough to read it.
it's the actual definition. Yeah. So I am campaigning on smart growth. I am not against growth. I am against poor planning. I plan to win and I plan to help this county grow in a smart way. And that might look like mixed use developments. That might look like town centers where we have affordable housing, businesses, office space, industrial space within close proximity to each other. But at the end of the day, the overarching theme and theory behind my decisions is what's best for this community long term. And that means it's not about how many new rooftops we get. It's about the value that each rooftop brings to this community. We can't pitch paradise and let it flood when we get a severe thunderstorm. We have to bring our infrastructure up to date so that we can attract industries that will come here, invest in our community, put up affordable housing, and bring development that fits this community.
Thank you very much. What I'd like to do is I'm going to start again with Bob. Right, we've done the loop. So so it's now 6:37, so we're doing great on time. So this next segment is focused around Amendment 3 because it's so much now in the, I guess, in the media, in the newspapers, etc. So same question for all of you. And so as I know, you know, Amendment 3 is on the ballot this November. And if it passes, Indian River County stands to lose a significant amount of property tax revenues. So kind of to frame it out, I wanted to share with you a quote of the Indian River County Administrator, John Titkanich. And this is the quote that he gave to TC Palm. Amendment 3 would raise the homestead exemption, saving homeowners in Indian River County and across Florida millions of dollars. Yet it also would mean local services, including emergency services, would be cut that much too. County projections estimate 22 million and property tax revenue will be lost next year, adding up to 41 million the following year. So that'd be 2028 if the state constitutional amendment passes. He went on to say property taxes fund libraries, parks, animal control, recreational facilities, planning code enforcement, economic development, children's services, nonprofit agencies, and emergency services, i.e. fire and rescue and life safety. Amendment 3 passing will jeopardize these services. I don't think anyone is immune from the effects of property tax reform. So now, should you be elected, how would you approach covering that shortfall? So that's a big nut, 22 million in 27, 41 million in 28. So now you'd have to decide what you would be willing to cut, what are you willing to prioritize, i.e., what are you willing to protect? And how would you seek out alternative revenue sources, i.e., where would some other money come from? Bob.
Wonderful. Wonderful question. I mean, that's the 800-pound gorilla in the room is this Amendment 3 and everything
Yes,
about it. And, I've come out, I'm all for tax reform. I've been through 15 budget cycles in the city of Sebastian, but Amendment 3, as it is written, is not good. I mean, it is not good at all. I mean, there is no backup plan if things. The questions that we answered before, we talked about infrastructure, we talked about the lagoon. Those things would be the first things going out because, of course, your priority is going to be law enforcement and fire. Anything to do with safety is going to be number one. Uh, the bill, like I've heard, essential services have to be done. Yes, but it doesn't say at what level. And that's a huge problem with that. I think the most important thing is if it does pass, I think the county would need to just call a special meeting and put it out all on the table. What do you want to see? There might be departments that have to be cut. What do you want to see? I think a lot of people think, and also the state is looking to take more and more control away from your local government, and then you'll have to go begging to the state. Oh, I think this is an essential service. I think a perfect example is I sit on the Treasure Coast Development Planning Board for the 3 Treasure Coast counties. And for 4 years, we have had a program for 6,000 developmentally disabled adults that would take them to school or to work. It could take them from Indian River to Martin and vice versa. Okay, 4 years. Every year I'd be like, how is this going to be funded next year? We'll go for another grant. We'll go for another grant. And Karen Deagle runs the Senior Resource Association. She did. But then finally, we're out. So we went to the state. I think it was 1.5 or 1.8 million dollars. And we asked the state, no. So July 1st this year, 6,000 developmentally disabled adults no longer were taken to work or to school. Is that an essential service? I would kind of think so, because you're pulling the rug out from underneath these individuals. And what does this lead to? This leads to behavior problems that they might have in their homes. So that leads to a Baker Act, which leads to law enforcement involvement. So what is the cost of that? So I think first, right off, if it passes, then the county just needs to get down, lay it all on the table, ask the community, and hopefully the community comes out. A lot of times they don't come out during the budget. And all of a sudden, when these things are cut, then they're wondering what happened. And like you said, libraries and parks, that's not funded. I could speak for the city of Sebastian. There's 57 bathrooms that we take care of that the public utilizes. Is that an essential service? For somebody like an Amazon driver, it kind of is, or even police department when they're out on their rounds, they can't make it back to the station. They're using the bathroom at the Schumann Park and they're clean. So does that mean they might be cut down to maybe we clean them instead of every day, clean them twice a week? So this community is used to a certain level of service. So they would be gravely impacted if Amendment 3 passes as it is.
Oh, thank you. I should mention to our listeners that this amendment is somewhat, in terms of voting majority, a little bit out of the box because this will be a constitutional amendment, and hence it needs a 60% majority of all Floridians that vote. So I'm just as an FYI. Jennifer, what do you have to say about Amendment 3?
Thank you very much for the question. This is the question that everybody asks. So again, as I'm knocking doors, doing events, calls, text, emails, it always is about Amendment 3. So I cannot speak for Nicole, but I could say for everybody else in my race, I am the only one in support of Amendment 3 and saving homesteaded individuals money on their property taxes. So looking at veterans, elderly, single moms, single dads, families that are really struggling, this money will help them. I met a gentleman last week, again, while I was knocking at doors. His wife had a stroke, and he had to choose between getting her medicine or taking her back to the hospital because he had an HMO plan that wasn't working for him. And it was really sad to hear, oh, hey, are you the girl that's running? And yes, I want to save money on my property taxes because I want to take care of my wife. A couple weeks ago, speaking to a single dad, mom was a first responder. She passed away, and he said, "Oh, you're the one that's in support of Amendment 3. You know, I could really use that money because I'd really love to send my kids to camp over the summer and not have them go to grandma and grandpa's house every day. They're really elderly." So these are really important things, and having these hard conversations, and looking at it. So yes, it would be a loss of $22 million, but the county commission has done a great job in potentially reducing the budget. It's up for a vote, $96 million. Daryl Lohr and his team, a great job. So that would be more than double year two of what we would, lose, with the tax exemption, right? And the homestead exemption being raised. The county commission's already doing that hard work. So for me, I want to give you some stats. So Indian River County has seen total taxable assessed property values more than double in the past 10 years, from 13.4 billion in 2016 to 29.3 billion in 2025. According to the Indian River County property appraiser, there's been an $8.7 billion in new taxable values over the previous 4 years, for a 51% increase in property tax value. So what does that mean? We have the money coming in. We have the money that we can do. And if we need to trim the fat to help our veterans, to help our elderly, to help our single families, or our families that are struggling working 2 and 3 jobs, again, I am the only candidate, not including Nicole. I don't know her views yet. This is our first time meeting. But for everybody else who is running, even Mr. Hardingham, who is not here this evening, he's working. I am the only one that is standing up and saying, you know what, I would even take a reduction in my salary to be sure that if this passes, if we needed more money, I would take a reduction in my salary to be sure that these people are taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson, what do you think about Amendment 3?
So, I mean, we've been asked this at every forum, right? And my question
I'm sure this
hasn't-
is
yeah,
not new news.
right. And my position hasn't changed, that we need to look at government taxing and we need to look at government spending. But that should be done here. That should be done with our elected leaders. Um, you know, government that sits closest to the people is best, because it can best reflect what those people want. I know our community wants a safe community, first and foremost, and we want to be able to invest in the infrastructure as well that keeps us safe. If Amendment 3 goes forward, you're already seeing, the Sheriff's Association came out yesterday saying they have serious concerns about it. The state fire department has come out and said they have serious concerns about it. It's not just, oh no, money's going away. It's, oh no, the cuts that governments are going to have to make, or the makeup and revenue, is going to be as painful as this supposed medicine, we'll call it. So, as an example, in our county, as I mentioned before, our fire department already doesn't have enough people and enough infrastructure to take care of what we have as it stands. The county commission has already planned out 3 new stations, bought land, and put in place a schedule to build those out. If we don't have the resources to be able to pay our firefighters, recruit them, train them, put equipment in those stations, we won't have those 3 stations. Those 3 stations are on the chopping block if we have to make cuts with this Amendment 3, if there's not new revenue to make up the difference. So if we already don't have a fire department that can cover the people that live here, we're shooting ourselves in the foot in growth and not having the police or the fire and ambulances that we need to take care of our people. So, in terms of how we respond to this, I think the current commission has already done a good job in trying to find projects and other efficiencies in that cut. That cut is not going to solve all the problem. This homestead exemption will continue to roll forward year after year after year. So people who bought houses in 23 or 24, by 2029, they're going to start getting their homestead capped. So it's a problem that will continue year after year after year on this. So first, if I was a county commissioner, let's look at where all of our spending is. Let's find areas we can cut, areas we can defer, areas we can maybe join another municipality and work on that project together. Find those priorities, and fund them, and make cuts where it is responsible. After that review, let's figure out if there's a shortfall, and if so, what is the best way to make that up, whether it be putting in assessments to cover certain essential services, use fees, or things like that. I don't want to see that happen. I don't think raising taxes to make up for the change in the homestead is a good approach. I also think most other taxes are regressive. They harm those who have who have lower incomes. They end up having to pay the same fee as someone with a higher income. They're not tied to property values. I jokingly sometimes with people in the community, you can choose the value of your house. Let's hope you can't choose the value of your income. And why would you want that to be less?
Well, thank you very much. So Nicole, it's like I feel like a
Thank you.
big reveal. How were you
Oh
landing
my.
with Amendment 3?
Yeah, so full transparency here, as a voter, I am still weighing my options in my decision. I do tend to be somebody who really does a lot of significant research before making a decision, and it looks great on paper as a taxpayer to be able to save. I have a young family. I have a lot of family in this area who it stands to save people significant amount of money. But I also understand what happens if it does pass. And I think for me specifically, even though I haven't made my decision yet, I know that if I were to be elected and it were to pass, it would be a significant job for anyone. But I really would lean into understanding the current budget, which I don't have insights into right now, and evaluating the things that, let me backtrack, the spend maybe that occurs, understanding by line item where our taxpayer money is going. What are the services that are being provided? I truly believe that taxpayer money is something, or any type of revenue source for the county does need to be spent for broad community support. And sitting at a table, many times I'd imagine, to be able to come to that decision, or those decisions, would be very difficult. I would look forward to a challenge, and certainly think that from my perspective right now as it sits, I lean into having the honesty to be real about how we spend our money, what we're doing with it. The veracity to, as you've heard me say, research and understand literally everything before making a decision, at least as much as we can, right? And then having the integrity to follow through. So while it's very difficult for me to sit here and say what I would do, because I genuinely do lack the experience in budgeting, and I will acknowledge that. I certainly would take on the challenge, again, with my core principles of doing the right thing for our community, this community that raised me, and includes all the people, So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lohr, I had not heard before or read this $96 million that Ms. Pippin referred to, and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind incorporating your answer,
Sure.
maybe pulling that in, and
Right.
how that comes to
Sure,
play.
and thank you. I'll be happy to clarify that among a couple other things that I've heard. First and foremost, we must understand the taxation history that we have in the state of Florida. Many know that when homestead exemption began decades and decades ago, it started off as a $10,000 exemption. And back then, it was just the opposite of what we have now, with about 895 people moving to our state, our wonderful state, a year. In 2008, it was increased to 50,000. For decades, it was 25,000. So 18 years ago, it was a $50,000 homestead exemption. Now, what has happened, if you've monitored the legislative session like we as commissioners do, you noticed there was some chatter about it, and the governor held a special session. And I think Bob understands this too. It was rushed. And it was rushed, in fact, within 72 hours. There was a vote, generally speaking, party line, to have this placed on the ballot. Now, if you think about changing a sacred document such as our state's constitution versus doing this the legislative way. In other words, the House and the Senate could have worked together. They could have came up with some type of property tax reform and incrementally implemented. In other words, what is on the ballot now, which you'll see November 3rd, goes from 50 to 150. That is a large, gigantic jump. Uh, that could have been handled completely differently. In fact, as recently as yesterday, a circuit court in Tallahassee and Leon County found that the language on the ballot needs to be modified. In other words, the headlines that you read when you go into the booth to vote on Amendment 3, that language was found to be ambiguous. Our state attorney general has 10 days to modify that, to get that language. In other words, the ambiguous, whatever that word is, that too. I'll pick that up later.
We'll spell it later.
Yeah, there'll be a quiz.
What was it?
The fact is,
There we go.
there you go.
Right, there we
He's
go.
got it. The fact is, the headline, what would have appeared, was ruled that it was ambiguous. So at the end of the day, that will change. Ms. Pippin mentions two things that probably need clarification. Our veterans and our seniors already are afforded additional homestead exemptions depending on certain circumstances. When she talked about the $1 million that were, I think she said 80 or 90 million. Fact is, those are
96 million.
carryover. As a fine example, Tuesday we denied an $800,000 generator for our courthouse. It came back. We had budgeted $800,000 for a multi-faceted generator. The bid came back at 1.9 million. We eliminated it. We whacked the bid, right, to be heard at another date. Those are carryover dollars. Although we are very, very fiscally constrained, I can tell you severe cuts will be made in our services. Remember, 82% of our fiscal budget is human beings, personnel costs. So if everything's relative and you're cutting this percent, this percent, this percent, you are going to cut that percent of bodies. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jaffe, you know what? You're a really good sport. It's hard to be the last one. But I'd love to hear, I'm sure you have some additional comments to
Oh my
round
gosh,
out the conversation on Amendment 3.
I thought you were saving the best for last.
That's a really great way to look at it. I love that. Yes.
I don't even know where to start. Such interesting answers. Daryl touched on a point. Veterans have some luxuries already. If you're 100% disabled, this means nothing to you. You don't pay property taxes at all. But I think that I want to give you the longest answer I'm going to give you tonight. I bought my first house here in Indian River County when I was 18 years old. And I did that working one job in a kiosk in the mall. Good luck doing that today. I worked for a company. I bought that house and Hurricane Francis destroyed it with my wife and I inside. We were on the cover page of the Press Journal for the Hurricane Francis edition. That was a really powerful experience for us. One of the things that happened there was when we were rebuilding our house, we went to fix our pool and we went to put our fence up. And we had a fence contractor come out and put fence posts in. And before he could come out and put the panels up, I received a cease and desist order from the county telling me that I hadn't pulled a permit to put up my fence that was in an easement, dramatically devaluing the value of my home because, of course, you can't have a pool without having it secured. And I had to go down to the county and I had to fight with the folks that made that decision. And ultimately, without getting a lawyer involved, they did grant me permission to replace the fence that was blown down by Hurricane Francis. You want to talk about it, a waste of taxpayer dollars? I'm sure lots of people in this community have had similar experiences. That being said, I have sold a lot of things in my life. And a very common thing that I think most people have experienced is receiving an advertisement for something like a car or an appliance, and then showing up to purchase said thing to find out that it doesn't exist. It's not in stock. It's not available. But this other thing that's 10 or 20 or 30% more is absolutely available. We call that a bait and switch. So I just want to be really, really clear. I do not believe in bigger government or smaller government. I believe in better government. I believe in transparent government. So when you ask the question, what services are going to get cut? This guy in front of me and his team, they're the ones who have to plan for that. They have to be ready regardless of what happens. And they have put a plan together. An interesting plan, but a plan. That being said, one of the first things that I would do in my first 12 months as county commissioner is start a public-facing departmental dashboard. Every single department under the purview of the county commission, every county employee's department has key. I just had a brain fart. Key performance indicators, KPIs. They have those. As a member of the public, some of those KPIs are available for you to access online. You got to go to that department or division's website. You got to click through a bunch of stuff. You got to find it. You might not understand what you're looking at. As county commissioner, I will make a public-facing digital dashboard that every member of this community can go to one website and go, what's going on with Road and Bridge? You can see exactly how they measure their success and how they earn their taxpayer money. Before we ask for another dollar, let's make sure every dollar is being spent correctly.
Thank you so much. I wanted to give a quick shout out to Robbie Hardingham. He is also running for District 2, but he had to work tonight. He's a truck driver. So I wanted to let all of you know he is running, and he's running as a Democrat. So I just wanted to share a little bit about him. He says, I'm not a politician. I'm a truck driver, a veteran, and a lifelong resident who believes leadership should come from people who understand hard work and service. I grew up in Vero Beach after my family moved here from Miami when I was a kid. After graduating from Vero Beach High School, I joined the U.S. Army and served as a fuel truck driver. When I came home, I earned my CDL and spent nearly 3 decades behind the wheel, driving through all 48 states. Those miles showed me a lot of places and shaped who I am, but no matter how far I traveled, this was always the place I wanted to return to. And now I want to give something back to the community that has been part of my life from the very beginning. So that's just a little bit about Robbie, who is working tonight. So who knows what state he might be in? He'll have to let us
He's
know.
in Florida.
He's in, pardon me?
He's
in Florida? Okay, great. So, so now we've received many questions from the Let's Talk Vero community. And obviously, we don't have time to have all of you answer each question again. So if it's okay with you, I'm going to read a question, and whoever feels comfortable addressing it, please feel free to do so. I want to start with questions we received regarding Gifford, because we had done a Let's Talk Vero for Gifford, and so that raised some awareness to that community. So the question, we kind of summarized many of these questions. So many Gifford residents feel they haven't been heard by the county in recent years. What would you specifically do to change that? And how would you measure success? Additionally, fears of gentrification are real in Gifford. What are your thoughts, and what would you do to protect the historic character of Gifford? Who would like to answer?
You know what, Daryl? I'll let you go first.
Okay.
Oh, you had the mic.
Yeah.
Well,
And I'll have more if then somebody else wants to take the next
sure.
question. Yeah.
With respect to Gifford obviously a historic community that is near and dear to Indian River County. We have worked tirelessly over the years to make improvements not only on 41st, 45th Street, but 43rd Avenue. We certainly have a Gifford neighborhood plan that has been revised in 2024. We are currently meeting with the leadership of the Gifford community, and we have had many conversations, not only with the leadership there, but the peripheral leadership as well. As someone has mentioned earlier, when we police all 550 square miles of Indian River County, we have to be mindful of each and every community. And we do our best with respect to I think I heard potholes and graded roads before. We have over 250 dirt roads in our community. We triage those considering the dollars that we have, and we simultaneously address to the best of our ability each and every one of those projects.
Thank you very much. Next question I'd like to ask. How important do you feel it is for all children to enter kindergarten ready to learn and to be reading on grade level by the end of third grade, and why? Mr. Jaffe.
Well,
Oh,
I'm going to take mic privilege here for a second. I
yeah.
think it's vitally
No,
important.
that's my microphone.
It sounds like my 2-year-old.
Yeah.
I think it's vitally important, and all the data shows that, right?
Yeah.
If kids are reading on grade level at grade 3, they can read to educate themselves on all the grades thereafter. So, we need to give our community the resources. That's going to be making sure, the school district is a separate thing, but we can still talk about the school district because we're all interconnected. And if we want to see the economic development that we talked about earlier, we got to have kids that go through the school system and learn the skills that they need to be able to either get technical certificates, college degrees, or some sort of other training, right? So let's, as a community, make sure that the school district has what it needs. The county supports the infrastructure around that, supports any not-for-profits or things like that have requests that come to the county. They might need specific, zone variances so that they can operate something at their charitable place. But let's, as a community, also make sure that we take out of our pocket what we have, what we can, and help those organizations through. Particularly if Amendment 3 comes, there's not going to be a lot of extra government dollars going around to fund anything that is not a vital priority. So I think it'll be incumbent upon the community to make sure that we step up and do what each individual person can. In church we say tithe. I don't think we can make that a requirement here.
Right.
But if anybody has it within their means to help those organizations that are helping people in the community, that would be
Okay.
vitally important.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to read a question that is on the teleprompter, and I think you'll be able to scroll it down, right? So for all candidates, so here, I'm sorry. Did you want to say something about the kinder? I'm sorry.
Go ahead and ask your next
Please.
question. I'll
No,
answer
you-
all 3 in
no,
one
no,
shot. How about that?
Let's do little
Now he's not
people.
letting you
Since
go.
you, let's do little people. Go
Yeah.
for it.
So I actually care deeply about the plight of the people of Gifford. I understand that they have been made promises in order to allow those communities that are gated along 43rd Avenue to be built. And those promises were not fulfilled as far as I understand. I have
That
been
is
there
true.
for their long range plan.
Yes.
I understand that there has not been an
Right.
allocation of funds to enact their long range plan. And I would like to see that change in a hurry
Right.
and real fast. As far as children and education goes, you heard that I brought my son here.
Right.
And anybody in this town who knows any of the Jaffes, you know how important language is to our household. Reading is critical. Both my boys were reading by the time they got to kindergarten. Thank you, Imagine. Thank you, Sandy Hamrick and the Montessori School. We can do better. We have a department here in Indian River County called Human Services, and they oversee organizations like CSAC. And there are lots of NGOs around that that do a lot of great work to make sure that children and their families are supported so that they can learn and be productive by the time they get to third grade. And I would like to see more programming and more emphasis in their direction. I am not 100% sure why other departments are being bundled in, like the library. But if it helps further education and it helps bring the people to the resources, I'm all for it.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I didn't see you earlier. Go for the microphone. All right. So let me see if I can read this question. It says, for all candidates, the sheriff keeps asking for a larger budget every year. Are his budget requests reasonable or out of line?
Oh, I am not. I'm not against funding law enforcement or public safety. In fact, I support it a great deal, and I want whoever is responsible for keeping our community safe to have as many of the tools that they can have to do it safely and efficiently. I support that 100%. What I think the community may have observed last year was that might not be what's happened. I recently learned that the sheriff's office budget is not the actual cost of public safety. And I wonder how many people in the community know what the actual cost of public safety in Indian River County is. Indian River County just had a workshop and they put the number at 1.4 million, greater than the sheriff's office budget of 93.7. They came in at 94.7 million. And that did not include the 2.5 million that gets reimbursed to them by the school district, among other topics.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to make a comment regarding the sheriff?
So I think that we need to fund public safety. That is very, very important. We have to make sure that our communities are safe. Again, our elderly, our families, our people going to and from work, people coming from out of county. We have to make sure that that is a priority, and that's one of my priorities. And I know that there was a little scuffle with the budget, and the county commission was able to work that out and also provide the sheriff with additional funds for next year. And I absolutely support that. Again, I think public safety is very important. Our law enforcement officers put their life on the line every day for us, and I'm forever grateful for that. And I think that if they need the funds within reason, of course, we can't have just an unlimited budget, but I think that we have to, trust our elected sheriff that he is doing well by the budget. As county commissioners, we approve the budget, but, we don't get to say what comes and goes with their budget. So we have to trust our elected sheriff to do right by our funds. And if people are not happy with the job that he's doing, or things that he's purchasing or not purchasing, or how personnel are getting treated, they need to voice their concerns to the sheriff for that. But I do absolutely think that public safety is first and foremost.
Thank you so much. Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to sit down and spend some time with the sheriff, see the various aspects of his department, and in particular, like his real-time crime center and some other resources that he's created. I think those resources provide a lot to our community in terms of being able to respond more quickly and efficiently to problems that are going on throughout the community. On the funding aspect specifically, as a commissioner, I would be looking at what are you asking for and why are you asking for it? In this last round, there was moving parts and other factors, but one of the primary factors was, can we pay our deputies in some format close to what our surrounding counties are paying their deputies? And if we can't, our recruitment struggles. And in the last couple of years, the sheriff and the commission has made a concerted effort to bring both our sheriff and fire departments much closer to parity, or actual parity, with our surrounding counties, meaning we can recruit, we can train those guys and then not lose them to the surrounding counties and start that cycle all over again. So as a commissioner, I'd make sure he has the resources he needs to keep his personnel, to train his personnel, to equip them with what they need. But I might look with a more critical eye when he comes forward with other requests. Are we spending too much on technology? Are we investing in the right equipment that's long-term equipment, or are we buying new equipment every couple of years to try and see what works? Should we do pilot programs before we go in and buy things? So there's lots of moving parts about that budget. But I think as a commissioner, that's how you look at it. Does the sheriff have what he needs to get the job done, to keep his personnel, to train them, to equip them? And then everything beyond that, we look at it and say, what's appropriate?
Well, thank you. And I feel somewhat as an expert in this topic, being the three-term sheriff of Indian River County. I led the agency through a recession, 08, 9, 10, 11, and partially 2012. Additionally, towards the end of my tenure as sheriff in 2020, end of 19 and 2020, through COVID, which had a lot of challenges as well. The sheriff is an independently elected constitutional officer, and he or she in the state of Florida are allocated a certain amount of dollars agreed upon by the Board of County Commissioner. Our Board of County Commissioner has been consistent and conservative with the dollars that are going out to our sheriff and our other constitutionals, I might add. The sheriff's office composes this particular cycle every dollar in new revenue from ad valorem dollars, and then some. Our primary concern, I think Mr. Robinson mentioned it, and my primary concern as the former sheriff, is making sure the men and women are paid in their compensation package and benefits above the mean. I think we might be able to take a gander at some of the other things, some of the quote feel good things, and someone called them gadgets at one point. take a look at that. But first and foremost, take care of your men and women. Obviously, that solves your recruitment and retention. Otherwise, I would certainly keep an eye on that.
Anybody else wish to make a comment on the sheriff?
There's a whole bunch of different questions that came on, and again, with the sheriff's budget, I agree with what's been said. And with the sheriff, my relationship goes back with the sheriff to 2008 when I came down and took over all the child abuse investigations for the Treasure Coast in Okeechobee. That's when I got involved with the sheriff Laura at the time, and then of course met Eric, and as Eric rose through the thing. So I have a good relation. I think some of the animosity that seemed to occur last budget cycle, I think that's best held behind doors. But I also want to answer the question about reading being on grade level by 3. I think that's super important because one of the big things that happens is kids who can't read typically drop out. Then what do? They become pregnant or they get involved with juvenile justice, and then they graduate juvenile justice into the Department of Corrections. So I believe, and also I've sat on the Children's Services Advisory Committee since 2013. Daryl Law was on there as the sheriff at the time. And they don't fund nonprofits or NGOs or whatever you want to call them. The CSAC funds programs that are better served through these nonprofits providing. When the county builds a road, is that a donation to the company that does the road? No. So it's very similar, like the Thrive, which is the old substance abuse center. They're handling the opioid money that came in as a result of the opioid epidemic. But literacy is especially important, as well as children who are born. Healthy Start, that does a phenomenal job with children. And again, that's important. I sit on fetal infant mortality. We've talked about how are we going to bring businesses here. We almost lost maternity at Indian River Hospital, Cleveland Clinic. I mean, they want to move that out. No major business with professional people. That's one of the big things they ask is what are the schools like? And is there maternity involved? And if there's not, that's a problem. So again, I think the funding is, if Amendment 3 passes, then a lot of these things are, who are you going to get? Is the sheriff going to get all the money? I mean, it has to be percentage wise, and you got to look through, but you have to fund law enforcement. Will it be at the current level? If Amendment 3 passes as written, it's going to be extremely hard on the other services that could be considered essential if you utilize them.
Thank you very much. When you talked about Gifford, I wanted to mention to our community that's listening, when we did a Let's Talk Gifford, we learned that a plan was passed in 2002 for their general improvement and their kind of relatively short wish list. And the same plan was approved again in 2014. And that same plan still exists and nothing's been done. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. If I may, let me ask you another question. Teachers, nurses, and service workers increasingly cannot afford to live where they work. And I'm sure you know individuals here that drive into the county, and I find they usually drive in from Fort Pierce and Port St. Lucie County. And because I always ask, where do you live? They do not live in Indian River County. They have to commute in because they can't afford to live in our own community. So the question is that the commission's problem to solve?
Is it the commission? I think they
If you
play
were a
huge
county
part in it.
commissioner,
Okay, I can tell you what we did in the city of Sebastian. We own 90 buildable lots. So I went to the city manager, what are we going to do with these? Can we maybe make affordable, attainable workforce housing for people, or just sell them? So we put that money in the general fund. So I met with Trevor Loomis from Habitat for Humanity, and I said, look, if we were able to give you some of these properties and reduce impact fees and everything, could we make it first priority would be a Sebastian employee, second would be a Sebastian resident, and then third would be an Indian River County resident, of course, with having teachers and first responders at the top of those lists to get those done. And I think that can also be done on a county level, because I'm sure the county owns a lot of property, as well as homes that are in code enforcement when they get forfeited or whatever. Those could be looked at rehabilitating and then turning them over, getting first responders, teachers into those homes. I think that's extremely important. I think also any developers that are coming in, any new development is holding their feet to the fire for a certain percentage that will go towards affordable, attainable workforce housing. Because it's hard just to have the developer. They want to make money. Everybody should be able to make money. That's where I think you have to collaborate with a nonprofit to actually get it done. And the support of the county or any municipality that can waive any of the impact fees or connections to sewer, that would lessen the cost for those we just talked about, and they'd be able to stay in our community.
Okay. Nicole, did you want to make a comment on that? I saw. Okay, all right. So, because I find when we have these gatherings with Let's Talk Vero, and we've had one on workforce housing, I find people, there's really an appetite for quote unquote of what it is affordable housing. So you call it workforce housing, I think, to make it a little bit more palatable. But I find people are not um, they're what? NIMBYs, not in my backyard, but I think we've got a huge backyard. To your point, we have lots of land here in the county. So I find it so interesting that we all recognize what the issues are, right? One of the solutions would be affordable workforce housing, but there seems to be an inability to make it happen. So I interjected.
That's
Go.
okay. That's okay. You have a microphone.
Okay.
So I see things a little differently. I don't think that government should get involved in workforce housing. And here's why. It's our job as county commissioners to make sure that we are bringing good jobs to this community. We're providing safety. We're doing budgets. So again, I may be the only one on this, just like I'm the only one that supports Amendment 3. And Nicole's a maybe, right? But again, this is why Amendment 3 passing is so important. These people that are homesteaded, they're going to save money. So whether they're driving from Port St. Lucie or they want to buy a home here and they buy a home here and they're homesteaded, they're going to save money that they would be paying for their ad valorem taxes. So we're talking about funding NGOs, nonprofit organizations. We have over 1,800 nonprofit organizations here in Indian River County. And it is my opinion and the opinion of a lot of people in this community, again, from knocking doors and doing events, that we should not be funding nonprofit organizations. They should be raising their own funds. So many of them are doing great work, and there's so many great organizations that do not take taxpayer dollars, like the Source for Homelessness, CareNet for, once a woman is pregnant up to age 4. They're not taking taxpayer dollars. So you can have the work done without taking taxpayer dollars. So in my opinion, and again, hearing it from around the community, NGOs, literally it's in the name, non-governmental organizations, if that's something that we need to cut completely or cut back, it's something that we need to look into. And again, Amendment 3 is one of those things that would help those nurses or teachers or people that are just barely making their bills. That's going to put thousands of dollars back into their pockets so they could, again, send their kids to summer camp, be able to afford fuel to drive to and from their jobs, to be able to afford their prescriptions if they don't have a great, insurance plan or it lapses, something like that. So I think that the problem does have a solution. And, again, that's why I'm a big component of Amendment 3 passing and supporting those people who it would really make a difference for.
Thank you very much. Mr. Jaffe. Hot mic.
Yeah, my goodness. My goodness gracious. Where do I begin? Growth without affordable housing is not growth. It's displacement. If the Board of County Commissioners does not legislate requirements for developers to build affordable housing, employers are not going to be able to hire employees that can live and work in Indian River County. The school district has made an incredible opportunity for teachers to come here, and they're very excited to come here until they hire a realtor and try to find a house and realize, oh, I can't afford to live in Indian River County. We learned last year that members of our public safety deputies don't live in Indian River County because they can't afford to live in Indian River County. I don't know that we haven't been able to. I think that there hasn't been a clear enough appetite to prioritize affordable housing, because it is my understanding that some people in this community don't want affordable, or as we are trying to dress it up, workforce housing in their backyard. But I'm here to represent everyone in Indian River County. And if you want to live here and you want to be able to go out and enjoy the businesses that operate here, the people that work in those businesses have to be able to live here.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
So I'll start by saying government doesn't build housing. Private enterprise builds housing, right? And when we've been asked this question, I've said that sometimes you get applause, sometimes you get boos, but that's the fact of the matter. There's been a lot of conversation about, mandate developers do a certain amount of affordable housing when they develop. And in theory, that sounds like it'll work. In reality, what happens is the cost of those underpriced houses get pushed onto the other houses that have to sell above market prices to offset the cost of lower ones. You look at the cities that have mandated rent controls and mandated under market affordable units in a number of cities. Minneapolis, St. Paul was an example. One city established a lot of affordable housing, rent controls, and things like that. The other city didn't. The city with the rent controls and affordable housing mandates had no new houses, no new permits for a year after COVID. The other city that didn't, all the developers went over there and they developed it. Rents went down on one side of the river and they went up on the other side with the affordable units. So it's about making sure that you have the right mix of planning, that you have various types of housing available for people in different parts of their life. I started off in an apartment, then I bought a home that required saving and things like that. We have to make sure that we're not imposing a burden on developers and builders that artificially increase the costs so that they can put houses at a lower price point. But also make sure that the other areas of affordability are looked at, because it's not just the price of the house. What are our tax rates? What are our insurance rates? Do we have the infrastructure to prevent flooding so that people don't have to buy flood insurance, which can be many times more expensive than just regular house insurance? And then there's what jobs do we have for people to work here so that they can afford to buy a home here, or to live in a steady, safe apartment until a home becomes available, right? So we have to get all the various aspects of that figured out. That requires trade-offs on each individual one. It requires years of planning, years of decision making, and explaining to developers what it is we want, so that and the community also to be part of that conversation.
Thank you so much. In the conversations about what you've talked about during your campaign, NGOs and nonprofits have been mentioned many times, and so many nonprofits reached out to Let's Talk Vero, and so we agreed to read collectively a statement from them, and so I'm going to read that real quick. Indian River County's nonprofit sector's impact on the local quality of life as well as the local community is underestimated with respect to investment of public dollars. Thankfully, Indian River County households are extremely generous, and together with charities' earned income, cover more than 80% of the costs of providing essential services like healthcare, education, economic opportunity, and housing to our community's most vulnerable residents. Government support for this work is at just 11% overall, and less than half of these dollars come from county or municipal sources. There's already very little contribution from local taxpayers to the nonprofit sector, and let's see. And local charities take their responsibility to steward these scarce dollars very seriously. Our local nonprofit leaders are trustworthy, accountable, and making a meaningful difference in the lives of many people. I'll leave it at that. So that was from collectively an organization that represents a very large amount of nonprofits here in the community. So it's 7:28, and at 7:30 we turn into pumpkins. Yay! So, needless to say, we're most appreciative of your time. I think the Let's Talk Vero gang is very appreciative that you came here this afternoon. I know it's a little warm in here, so but you all still are looking really good. And so we thank you for your feedback. I think all of you would be wonderful leaders for our community. You all have wonderful ideas. And so we wish you much success August 18th as well as November 3rd. So thank you again for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate it. Our pleasure.